Welcome back. We are live from ChangeNOW here in Paris. My name is HAYLEY Edmonds and I'm delighted to be your host for this programme. Now, you can't have a conversation these days about fashion without talking about sustainability. So how does Kering, one of the biggest luxury groups in the world, tackle this issue? What are the initiatives of the group in terms of sustainability? What are the ambitions of this major player in the fashion business? Well, we'll find out more with my next guests. We'll talk about biodiversity and regenerative agriculture, sustainable innovation, and in terms of alternative materials and circularity. So let's start with our first topic. Now, an example that highlights Kering's commitment to creating products that last, repair, reuse, and recycle are the three pillars of circular economy. To tell us more, please welcome Dounia Wone from Vestiaire Collective and Fanny de Bretagne from Kering. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for being with us here today.
Hi, thank you for having us.
So before starting, I'd just like to share a few facts about Kering. Balenciaga, Gucci, Saint Laurent, Alexander McQueen are just some of the very famous brands belonging to the group. Let's also introduce Vestiaire Collective, an online global resale platform with unicorn status and B Corp label. So my first questions are for both of you, actually. What are your ambitions in terms of circular economy, and what are your main priorities?
So, well, moving away from linear model of making waste is really not only about recycling, but rethink the way that we produce, that we use, and that we extend the life of our product. And basically for this, we really need to rethink the way that we produce and that we create our new product. And so basically, we need to reinvent new business model, to invest. And so this is why last year we published our ambition for circularity, which is called Coming Full Circular. And it is articulated around three pillars. The first one is the durability of our product. The second pillar is using regenerative resources and clean manufacturing processes. And the last one is the efficiency of our production. And so, of course, we set some targets on this strategy to keep us on track. And I'll present you a few examples about that.
Can't wait to hear about that. And of course, Vestiaire Collective is all about reusing and recycling.
Exactly, and Vestiaire Collective was born from that idea to create a circular business model. So basically, the 6 co-founders back in the time were trying to find a way to fight the textile waste and all the fashion industry issues that we know today. And basically, they created this circular model, and so circularity is part of our DNA, and it's at core at Vestiaire Collective. But we still have a lot to do, and in our priorities today, I would say that we have big priorities, which is democratize the second-hand for all consumers, and to have more and more users on our platform, but also to expand in new markets and having the best, obviously, because we are also a tech company, having the best experience on our platform is the priority for Vestiaire.
Brilliant. Could you give us some examples of this, of what you just mentioned? For example, what kind of new production processes are you implementing?
Of course. So maybe first, Kering published some standards about the raw material and manufacturing process. And the aim of our standards is really to drive us to use resources that are sought for circularity, which means that they start their journey by not depleting resources. And so they come from regenerative agriculture, they're coming from recycled waste. And in order to really have close the loop of our resources, And we committed to have 100% of our raw material that are aligned with our standards by 2025. Also, we are part of the RE100 initiative, which is led by Climate Group and Carbon Disclosure Project. And so we committed to have 100% of renewable energy by 2022. And so this, to achieve that, we are switching to a supply of renewable energy, but also producing some renewable energy. So, for example, in our logistics site that we have in Italy, we installed some solar panel in the rooftop. And actually, it is the biggest solar panel on the roof in Italy and one of the biggest in Europe, which is great. And of course, also a key element is to ensure that our products are given a second life. And so this is why we want to create new model. And that in March 2021, we invested in Vestiaire Collective in order to show how important it is for us to create a second-hand market for our luxury products.
And I guess it's collaboration really makes sense because you're making good quality pieces that are durable, that are going to last. On the contrary, there's a lot of fast fashion, which, as we see, it's just people are buying so much in so much quantity and throwing a lot away. I mean, this must be a huge advantage to you, and selling luxury products is that their durability.
Exactly, and this was a real strategy back at the very beginning of Vestiaire Collective, and that is why they invest into that segmentation of luxury, because yes, we were talking about textile waste, but because of the overconsumption and the product that are not durable enough and that you will wash and then you need to throw it away, which is not what is in the luxury fashion, because they invest in the materials. And actually you can talk about durability for materials, but also the emotional durability, and that's the strength of those luxury brand and Kering group, is that all those designs are timeless. So they can have a second, third, or fourth life. And yes, it's a good investment. So our job is also to change the way people consume fashion. This is our mission. And we want to really displace people from the fast fashion toward a biggest investment, but maybe less consumption, but really an investment for life.
Have you seen a shift in the mindset of people? Because, going back 10 years, second-hand clothes weren't cool, or anything second-hand. It wasn't cool. But these days, with second-hand luxury sites such as Vestiaire Collective, and, we know where the traceability of the products as well, is it another cool? Has it become cool? Are people kind of second-hand or vintage now, a lot more kind of prestigious?
Yeah, I would say maybe two things. One, the job was to democratize, so through digitalization and bring digital into that market, because no one, actually our co-founder did not invent vintage or second-hand. It was here, but there were no platform where you can have a giant and a global wardrobe. With all that catalog. So that was the first thing, but also you can see the consumer today, it's more mainstream, and it's something that I can see even in my family with my niece. Yeah. They are really like it's kind of the way they consume fashion. It's really, really natural, and they are more aware of the condition of, for instance, fast fashion items, so social problems, but also the environmental one. I know that there is still some people far away from there, but it's our job to make them come and enter, and that is, I think, also one of the key steps to bring back younger generation through second-hand platform, and then at some point they will get in love also with the brands, and then invest in some pieces and new pieces like Yves Saint Laurent, for instance.
Absolutely, yes. So Fanny, what kind of mindset and culture do companies or stakeholders need to adopt to develop successfully and to meet such a challenge, if that's what you can call it, as circular economy?
Yeah, and actually, well, you mentioned it. It's not only having a strategy in terms of circularity, it's really a new mindset.
Yeah.
And for those type of systemic change, you really need to completely rethink the way that we are working. And so we discuss about investing, but it's also creative thinking, the will to change, and not only from the sustainability team, because of course the sustainability team is convinced that we need to change, but we need to convince designer, marketing, purchase team that they need also to change. And the aim, so it's really to work together, and not only in our house, but to work together with the whole sector. And so this is the ambition of the Fashion Pact, to really have collaborative and open source solution. So basically the Fashion Pact is a coalition of different companies from the fashion sector, and the aim is to stop the global warming, restore the biodiversity, and protect the ocean. So this is really a way for the sector to take the responsibility for the industry as a whole.
Dounia, on your website, well, Vestiaire Collective website, you mentioned that 70% of the items purchased on Vestiaire avoided first-hand purchase. Circular economy really is at the heart of your business model, the DNA of your
it's really
website.
Into our DNA, and let's say also, and let's give credit to our own consumer and our community. So basically this number is for the Vestiaire community. We use the same methodology as some other studies that was made in UK, but also at Farfetch. And we see that usually those numbers was not really high, like around 50 top. And having this number is also, we are super proud, because our message through marketing and through what we believe in and our vision and mission is really embodied in the community. So it means that we're doing the work of less, you have to buy less, but really buy better, and having one in, one out to fight the overconsumption. So yes, we have actually this number, but you can discover so many more, because we had our first impact report this year, and actually it's part of this, and we get inspired by the ePNL that Kering created with PwC back in, I think it was more than 10 years ago. So yes, we really wanted to emphasize the difference between the linear business model and circular business model, but also showcase the uniqueness of Vestiaire Collective model, which is a bit different as some competitors we have.
Okay, how do you see the future of sustainable luxury high-end fashion, Fanny?
Well, as I said, I think we really need to focus on each step of the life cycle of the product. And so actually we are always scouting for new solutions through our material innovation lab, which is in charge of sourcing sustainable raw material and fabrics. And we also work with Fashion for Good, which is an incubators that we're working with since 2017. And so, and for example, tomorrow, well, I invite you to, we will reward, sorry.
You're going to give an award?
Yeah. Well, first I invite you, because there is a few solutions that we are that we have a partnership with, and they are presented in the incubator lab that here at the ChangeNOW. And also tomorrow we will give an award with the ChangeNOW for a new innovative solution.
Fantastic.
So this is always great opportunity for us to find new business model.
Brilliant. I've seen some of the stands down in the event, and they look fantastic. Some very innovative solutions. How about you? I mean, how do you see the next, Vestiaire Collective in 10 years' time?
First, so if we're take a look, I would say that we need to improve the experience on our platform, and the more it will be, the smoother it will be, the better it will be for the consumer, because it's still, and we are really aware that it's still kind of a blocker for people, the time that you spend listing your item on a platform, for instance. Expand also, because we really want to enter a new market like APAC. We just did a recent acquisition, and we bought Tradesy in US. So great things for us, but I would say also that we brought a new project, which is resell as a service, and in that part is our ability to bring circularity for the brands. So, for instance, we started with Alexander McQueen, a pilot to understand. So for them, it's a win-win. They will have the knowledge of the second life and what's happened after the boutique. And for us, it's really bringing this expertise and the 13 years of expertise of pricing and everything that you can learn on a platform on the consumer habits for the brands.
Well, thank you very much, ladies, for your time, for explaining. Thank you. How you envisage, how you see the future of sustainable fashion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's continue with our next topic, regenerative agriculture. Please welcome to the live TV studio, Yoann Regent, Head of Sustainable Sourcing and Nature Initiatives at Kering, and Gilles Baraize, Project Manager at Epiterre. So let's continue with our next topic, regenerative agriculture. Please welcome to the live TV studio, Yoann Regent, Head of Sustainable Sourcing and Nature Initiatives at Kering, and Gilles Baraize, Project Manager at Epiterre. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my first question, from cotton to wool or leather to cashmere, most clothing starts out as a raw material on a farm or a rangeland. For this reason, the future of the fashion industry is inextricably linked with the future of agriculture, right? So as a main player in the fashion industry, how does Kering preserve biodiversity, and what are the key pillars of your strategy?
As you highlighted, biodiversity and nature are very important to Kering, are crucial to Kering. Nature is an infinite source of inspiration for designers, for brands, or creative teams. But also nature, as you said, is the source of the raw material we use. The wool, the cotton, the leather, they come from landscapes that need to be preserved if we want to have cotton, wool, and leather in the future. It's not only, I want to say, a sustainability question, it's actually also a business imperative. So for this reason, it's just a no-brainer for Kering to support biodiversity and nature. As such, as highlighted in our biodiversity strategy, we have an ambition to regenerate 1 million hectares in the landscape, rangelands, farm, forest that matches our supply chain, so meaning in the supply chain of cotton, wool, leather, viscose, etc., but also to protect and preserve 1 million hectares of high-value ecosystems such as old-growth forest, mangrove, or coral reefs that, even though they are not directly linked with the supply chain, are just imperative to preserve.
So what is the definition of regenerative agriculture, and how does it work?
So before jumping into this question, so we framed regenerative agriculture in the scope of our Regenerative Fund for Nature, which is basically the operational arm to reach this objective of 1 million regenerative hectares by 2025. The fund aims at restoring these rangelands and farms in the raw material supply chain of 4 materials: cotton, leather, cashmere, and wool. As part of the first round of projects, together with our partner Conservation International, we have identified 7 projects in 6 key countries that are supporting to reach this goal of regeneration. And so to your question about what is regenerative agriculture, I'm going to disappoint you because there is not one definition of regenerative agriculture. The reason is that it's a framework that aims at creating positive outcomes on biodiversity and nature. As such, it's highly dependent on the context. So it's going to depend on your land, climate, soil, the type of crop or livestock you're rearing on the soil. So it's very difficult, and you should be very careful when trying to define it. That being said, as part of the fund, we've decided to identify 5 key pillars that support these outcomes. The first one being around soil health, so making sure that you preserve the soil functionality and that you capture carbon in the soil. Preserving biodiversity is the second pillar, not only species but also their habitat. The third pillar is focusing on eliminating as much as possible chemical synthetic inputs. And 2 pillars that are often, I think, overlooked when speaking about regenerative agriculture are farmer livelihoods, because you also need to consider the people in the system, but then also animal welfare, because most of the systems include animals, so you should make sure that they are properly treated. But I'd like to hear Gilles on maybe his definition of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, thank you, Yoann. I agree with your speech. To my mind, regenerative agriculture is a philosophy of agricultural production and a set of adaptable techniques strongly influenced by permaculture. Okay, and its aim goals are to regenerate soil, to protect or to increase biodiversity, of course, and to optimize the water cycle, and so on. It's a definition broad. It's a broad definition, and therefore, I think we could compare its definition by the definition better known of agroecology. Yeah. That's what I think, and we could support and sequester atmospheric carbon and so on. It's infinite.
I mean, I guess it's really like caring, but on a long-term scale, isn't it? Really investing in agriculture on every level, be it from the farmer to the actual soil, to have a long-term, effect rather than getting immediate results. It's really kind of, putting the time and effort in to work on the soil, biodiversity, and farmers, for example, which takes time and money. But it's obviously something that Kering holds close to their heart and finds very important for them as well.
Absolutely, and it's crucial actually to finance this transition because, very often companies, brands want to purchase the material that is already regenerative, certified, whatever. But you need to help the producer to break this barrier in order to reach this stage. So we can speak about, of course, financial support. That can be done through ecosystem service agreement. And I know that Gilles will speak about this because it's something that Epiterre has developed. It's very innovative, an innovative way to pay for the farmers for the service they give to nature. But it's also technical support. So together with our partner at Conservation International, we want to provide technical expertise to these farmers in order to regenerate their lands. And finally, a third objective of the fund is also actually to start creating market connections, so market links, because some of these producers don't necessarily know where to sell their wool, know where to sell the hides. So I think that's also where we have a role to play. Today, we are not necessarily connected to these suppliers, but we want to help them creating ties to the luxury industry.
So you're providing accompaniment as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. So, I mean, what support have you seen being given to the farmers? What do you mean concretely?
First of all, Epiterre is a brand and a company which is permitting to sell environmental services and based on a fair remuneration. This is the aim goal. And next, and originally, we have to create a framework, a concept, with an innovative tool, legal tool, which is the ESC, in French CPSE, environmental services contract, and it's permitting to make the link between public actors or companies and to offer a turnkey offer to the farmers who wants to act for environment, to change their practices, to make a lot of new practices, and it permits to support the risk. That's what I think.
Okay, so what about animal welfare? Is that part of your strategy at all?
Absolutely. So as I highlighted, animal welfare is the fifth pillar of our definition of regenerative agriculture. But we started working with animal welfare well before that. Back in 2019, we launched the first of the industry ever animal welfare standards, who highlight all of the practices that have to be implemented in all other animal-based supply chain, raw material supply chains. These are really ambitious. So they start, the minimum entry level is at EU legislation, which you might think, what's the point then? But you need to think that we are sourcing internationally. So implementing EU legislation in, let's say, South Africa is already a challenge. But then the gold level and the goal that we want to achieve is really ambitious, is really working at ensuring the best practices when it comes to animal welfare. So it's key. We cannot have systems that are dependent on animals, but then not taking care of these animals. These standards have been developed with scientific experts, NGOs, and on the field, they are being operatively implemented through either audits from our own teams in the supply chain of leather and wool, or through recognition of existing third-party certifications that uphold this high level of animal welfare.
And working alongside Kering, Gilles, what kind of collaboration would you like to develop with the group?
Oh.
Be nice.
Yeah, good question. We hope to have a really sustainable collaboration, efficient, in fact, a real collaboration. I think, first of all, we share some objectives with the sustainable development, for example, with principles like economy, of course, but also ecology and social. That's what we are. We share. So, and why not a new project with animal welfare, for example? It's quite possible, I think. This is another story.
For another day.
It
seems to be a very kind of healthy ecosystem that you've put in place here, with a kind of very holistic like collaboration between you. And I think that's what's great to see, that, you know, Kering is investing and using its, you know, knowledge and financial help to kind of invest in and you know and to assist and accompany farmers. So I think that's, you know, on a long-term scale as well. So I wish you all the best with your project, and with Epiterre. You actually have a booth here, don't you? Yeah. So we can you can go by and meet Gilles and his team, who will be there ready to answer any questions in English and in French. They'd be more than happy. Well, thank you very much for one of us guys, to both of you, and thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sustainable fashion. It's a combination of many different sides, which includes ethical business practices, supply chain transparency, minimum impact policies, give back programs, and arguably the most important of all, the sustainable materials that make up our ethical wardrobe. What are the alternative materials for the future of the fashion industry? Let's talk about it with Anne-Gaëlle Lamort, Sustainability Innovation Lead at Kering, and Youyang Song at Peelsphere. Alternative materials for the future of the fashion industry. Not only do they pollute, but the materials that make up the fabrics used directly impacts and contributes to the consumption of water, microplastic pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, soil degradation, rainforest destruction, and lastly, landfill waste of epic proportions. So what innovations has Kering come up with to deal with this drastic situation, Anne-Gaëlle?
Actually, innovative materials are really key for the group, and through the tool we have developed, our environment profit and loss, the EPNL, we have seen that concretely all the impacts are coming from the raw material, and this is why we want to move forward on it. And this is why as well we're working on alternative material, and especially on leather alternatives, because we've seen, thanks also to the EPNL, that the leather making was the most impactful, and this is why we are developing a lot of alternative material. And especially you've seen on Balenciaga last presentation in February 2022 for next winter, a full mycelium, 100 mycelium coat. So I'm sure you would like it.
You're already starting to use these alternative
exactly.
materials.
Yeah.
What consumer habits are you observing? Or is the consumer ready to change his or her habits?
Well, we all hope so.
They better.
And anyway, we see that all across the regions, of course, the customers is asking more and more questions, and they are waiting for the brands to be committed to tackle social and environmental issues, and they are expecting to be transparent on traceability, where the goods are made, are they sustainable, talking about leather, what do we do for animal welfare. So it's the awareness is raising.
We have Youyang with us here today. Have you got some news, some specific news to share with Chinese customers?
Yes, of course. Well, there are a few trends in consumer behaviors of Chinese market we should take note. So first is Chinese fashion consumer are still in the early stage of sustainable awakening. So this is growing among mature and young generations alike. So second, connecting to the first point is high-spending Gen Zers and millennials in first-tier cities like Shanghai and Beijing are most waiting to learn about sustainability in fashion. So this is based on the Kering's recent China sustainable fashion study. So third is brand and social media hold the key to sustainability awareness amongst consumers. So sustainability is becoming a trending topic of discussion on social media. So fashion brands play a crucial role in influencing their consumers. And last but most important, I would like to share is that Chinese consumers care about aesthetic design and innovation when it comes to fashion. So they are most important for the industry to make the sustainability the new norm. So, and this is exactly where Peelsphere plays in this grand sustainability ecosystem.
I mean, there are a few trends, of course, in this, the customer behavior that you just mentioned in the Chinese market that we could probably actually take note from. And Anne-Gaëlle, is it more expensive to produce and use alternative materials?
Yes, you're right. As of today, it's a little bit expensive. Why? Because actually those materials doesn't exist yet. You know, we're really starting from scratch. But I think that luxury has a real key role to start with the innovators, set up the fabrics, set up the scale up, and hopefully help all the luxury market to benefit from innovative materials, all the fashion market, and hopefully raise the price with the quantities, lower the price with the quantities, sorry.
So what is your innovation process to find new materials?
Across the years, Kering has set up different structures around innovation, especially with the Material Innovation Lab set up in 2013, who is developing sustainable fabric for our brands. And not only the fabrics, but also they're working on fibers, processes, dyeing, and it will be around sustainable materials such as fake fur or denim or recycled material. Then we have our Sustainable Innovation Lab, which sits in Switzerland since 2020. and who is working particularly with watches and jewelry on recycled material and innovative sourcings. And we have also our KTRC, which is the Kering Testing Research Center, who is working in our tannery in Normandy. And they are working on innovative material, but also on chrome-free leather, especially on exotic skins. And we are working also with the platform you might know, whose name is Fashion for Good, which is held in Amsterdam. And we are working really closely with them as partners. And as an example, they did scout since the last 5 years, not less than 150 innovators in processes, traceability, manufacturing, to name a few. And of course, there is also the international award we have made with China since 2019, which name is Kering Generation Awards. And we have Peelsphere here, who is the winner of the last 2021 awards. And we're developing an alternative material that Youyang is going to show. So may I ask you, maybe from your side, what has been your journey with the Kering Generation Awards?
Yes, of course. So first of all, I'm grateful for the Kering Generation Award, and I want to take the opportunity to thank Marie-Claire, Ms. Tai, CEO of Kering China, Anne-Gaëlle, Plug and Play, for all the support and recognition along the journey. And I'm very honored to be selected as the first prize of this Kering Generation Award. And with this Kering Generation, we have gained many prizes and media coverage, both in and outside of China. And this supported us on our fundraising and our growth on this entrepreneurial journey. So I would also like to thank Anne-Gaëlle, Ashley, and Christian. They provided a lot of suggestions and help for our business. And apart from that, we have received a lot of collaboration requests from like-minded brands to drive sustainable material development and innovation together. So we could not have a progress at the speed we envisioned without support from Kering.
Awesome. Congratulations, Youyang Song. Your
Thank
motto could be, in nature, nothing is lost. That'd be really recycling nature and using nature. Indeed, you transform waste into material. Tell us a bit more about Peelsphere, please.
Yeah, of course. So Peelsphere is a bio-innovative material born at the intersectionality of design, material science, and sustainability. So we have a mission to inspire sustainable, healthy, and balanced lifestyle through our materials' beauty and quality. So Peelsphere is an ideal alternative to leather and synthetic leather. So it made from food waste and biopolymer through our materials engineering. So we redefine food waste and reduce carbon footprint and design for circularity from materials and product level. So we incorporate aesthetics and design principles to challenge the status quo.
So tell us more about Peelsphere. Does it have the same versatility and strength of leather, like leather and synthetic leather? Is the final product fully recyclable?
Yes, sure. So since Peelsphere is an ideal alternative to leather and synthetic leather, so its strength and flexibility are comparable with them. It has a wide application from fashion to interior design, and it can be also processed in different ways, such as laser printing, laser cutting, and sewing, and more. So the most important point is that Peelsphere is fully recyclable, and the process of Peelsphere start collecting food waste to material manufacturing, followed by product design, and finally material biodegradation. So with recycle, redesign, and remanufacturing, we realize the infinite cycle of materials life.
So can you tell us more about your plans with Kering? What do you how do you hope to go ahead together?
Yes, so as we all know that Kering has been a pioneer in sustainable in fashion, and we have also received help support from Kering Innovation Lab and Christine Tobito, and we envision a long-term partnership with Kering focused on material innovation, product development, and collectively inspiring more Chinese and global consumers to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Wow, exciting times ahead. Thank you so much, Anne-Gaëlle and Youyang, for taking the time to discuss your collaboration and how you're actually financing and supporting the research of new sustainable materials. Thank you very much. Fashion is one of the most polluting industries in the world, but it's great to hear that big brands, big groups such as Kering are undertaking many initiatives and employing them to reduce their carbon footprint. It's going all in the right direction. In the Kering group, there's also a brand, a company that is actively committed to protecting the planet and minimizing its carbon and environmental footprint. Come aboard with me. I'll take you on a cruise. That all sounds very nice, doesn't it? Please welcome Jose Sarica, Expedition Experience Director at Ponant. So I'm here in the studio joined by Jose. Jose, thank you so much for being with us here today. Welcome to ChangeNOW. So could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, with pleasure. So good afternoon. My name is Jose Sarica. I am the Expedition Experience Director at Ponant, and I am based in Marseille. But you know, before this kind of thing, everything starts with a passion. Since I am a child, I was really fascinated by orcas. I did a PhD in marine biology, and I started as a naturalist with Ponant in 2009 in Antarctica. I spent 10 years on board their ships in polar and in tropical regions. And today, I am the one who are involved in all the scoutings for the company. And I am also creating all the itineraries, working with the local communities and with a pool of Ponant experts like captains, expedition leaders, to produce the best purposeful itineraries.
What a fantastic job.
I hope.
Wow. And your experience is amazing. You're in charge of scouting to create new itineraries. You just came back from Greenland or Galapagos. Can you tell us a bit more about exactly what this entails, and especially with regards to environmental issues?
You know, for me, the scouting is the most important thing. This is the step for a successful expedition cruise. For example, when I'm doing some scouting, my main objective is to create a relation of trust with the local communities. And I will give you an example. I was in April in Greenland, and I was in a small settlement called Tasiilaq, so it's a Greenlandic Inuit. And when I came, they were very skeptical. They said it's impossible. A ship cannot come so earlier in the season because there is so much ice. But in fact, my main objective was to convince them, to guarantee them that we will be able to come. But they were also very scared because in Greenland, we have to know that the fast ice is really, really, really important for them. It's vital. They use sea ice or the fast ice to hunt, to travel. This is their roads, their way of life. So never ever we cannot break this fast ice. So I had to convince them that we will operate in a very respect way to them. So after many discussions, they say, yes, okay, the ship can come. And Le Commandant Charcot came 2 weeks ago, and it was maybe the best experience we had on board. We spent 2 days with these local communities, and they accepted to transport our guests with dog sledging. And then the captain and the expedition leader invited them on board. And we spent 2 days with them, and they said, you can go there, you cannot go there. And they saw how respectful we were. And what sometimes it's really magical in the scouting, it's when something unexpected happened. For example, when the population looked at the Commandant Charcot and said, oh, the ship is able to come earlier in the season, maybe the ship could be a supplier ship for us. So today, Ponant is trying to create a potential partnership with the Royal Arctic Line and Ponant to allow the Commandant Charcot to be the next supplier ship for these local communities. So just to finish, when the scouting is well done, it's really worth it for both parts.
Today, more than 50,000 ships ply the seas of the world, generating about 3% of CO2 emissions. When you take hundreds of passengers to discover remote parts of the world on board a cruise ship as well, how do you commit to respecting the environment and reducing Ponant's environmental footprint?
This is an excellent question. When we have the responsibility to disembark more than 100 guests in very remote place, we have huge responsibility. You know, we cannot go where we want. We have to respect guidelines. We have to respect the rules. And Ponant is a member and an actor of very important organizations like AECO and IATO. They are both more specified for polar regions. So just to give you an example, when we are going to Antarctica, we have the responsibility to hire a very knowledgeable expedition team. And before each expedition cruise or landings, all the guests are briefed by the expedition team. We give them the keys, the code of good conduct, how to behave when they disembark, to collect anything, any rocks, any feathers, any shells. The only thing they can take with them at the end is their memories. And the only thing they can leave, this is their footprints. And to show you how important it is for us, the environment, in Antarctica, before to disembark, we ask you to clean your clothes with a vacuum cleaner. It's called the biodecontamination. We do that to release any seeds or tropical species to avoid to contaminated, very pristine environment like Antarctica.
I spoke to Mike Horn, the explorer earlier, who spoke on the main stage at the opening of this event. And he said to me that he, with his own eyes, has seen the impact of climate change, having been up to, been to both poles. As a marine biologist and as someone who now works in remote places, have you seen the direct impact of climate change?
It's difficult to see for a marine biologist because my main topic was marine mammals. But what can I tell you for sure? During 10 years, it was so amazing to see that the population of humpback whales increased a lot. And today they are not anymore endangered because in Antarctica, this is a sanctuary. They are not anymore hunted. So for a marine biologist, this kind of place is a treasure.
I imagine it is. It's good news then.
Yes, good news.
Ponant has brought together latest innovations available to create Le Commandant Charcot, the first hybrid electric polar exploration vessel powered by liquefied natural gas. What is your mission regarding this new vessel and your personal experience on board?
As the expedition experience director, as I told you before, I have to create a very immersive itineraries with local communities. And we would like today to reduce the speed, to reduce the distance, to offer a very purposeful experience for our guests. I spent some time on board Le Commandant Charcot, and we realized that the magic happened when the ship is able to stop for more than 2 days in the ice. Something happened, the nature come to you. You can stay on board and the polar bear can come because you are not moving. The emperor penguin are so curious, so something very powerful starts. So my main concern will be today to create itineraries and offer a very immersive experience.
What would you say is the most remarkable thing that you've ever seen or the best experience that you've had?
On board the Commandant Charcot, I have to share with you, I think, the best experience I have. They asked me to come to join the dry run at the North Pole. It was the first time for me to reach the North Pole. And I will be honest with you, my first thought was, again, I spent 10 years in Antarctica and in the Arctic, so maybe it would be boring. I was so arrogant, I was so pretentious, because as soon as the Commandant Charcot went into the pack ice, something happened. I realized that the pack ice was not anymore an inorganic thing, but a living organism. Everything changed, the color, the shape, the texture, the sound. I will tell you a secret. When I am on board, I have to close my curtains just to sleep a little bit. But on the North Pole, it was so fascinating. I was so hypnotic by that I never wanted to close my curtain to miss anything. And when I came back home, I just realized what happened, because on board there was a TV team and they produced a documentary. And so when I came back home, I watched this documentary with my partner. And at the end of this documentary, he was crying. And I told to him, "Why are you crying? Because we never ever see me in this documentary." No, I was laughing. And he said, "Did you realize the beauty that you have seen and how privileged you are?" And then I realized that I was very grateful and privileged to encounter this 8th continent.
Absolutely, and what a fantastic experience.
I have no word to describe them.
I imagine. Thank you so much for telling us all about your expeditions, about everything that you've been involved in and pendant. And thank you for coming here to ChangeNOW to share that with us. Thank you very much, Jose.
Thanks to you. It was a pleasure.